And welcome to the Reload podcast. Today I have Sheena from Ultimate Artists. Sheena, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So usually on the Reload podcast, what we do is bring down brands or organizations and talk to them a little bit about how what they're doing works with the artists that we work with on Reload or the artists that might be watching the things that we do. So we thought we'd bring you down and just kind of talk a little bit more about Ultimate Artists. So
Sure.
Before we get all of that into all of that, let's just find out what it is that you do for Ultimate Artists.
Okay, so I'm a director of the company, which basically means I do everything.
Right.
And yeah, Ultimate Artist is a 10-day summer residential in August. And it's basically a 360 look at the music business, the kind of tools that you need, the practical elements. So it's primarily about singing, songwriting, production and performance.
Right.
But interlinked with that is the kind of industry side where we bring in lawyers, so entertainment lawyers. We bring in people who can help you get on the live stage. So last year we had the Unsigned Music Awards there as well.
Got it.
We have music managers come in. So we had Floriste's manager last year come in and just talk about everything to do with the music industry. And I guess the kind of underlying pin to all of this is that we want to empower the independent artist to do as much of it as you can by yourself.
Right. I mean, that's something that's hugely relevant at the moment because in the past 5 years, things have changed, haven't they? From you need a label to push you further to actually, hold on, you don't necessarily need that anymore and you can do it on yourself. And a lot of it is DIY.
100%, yeah.
So I can see why something like this is really well received. So am I right in saying that Ultimate Artists, what you guys do is like a crash course almost on just giving people the skills to take their music a little bit further or take their artistry a little bit further?
Yeah, definitely. It's an intensive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And, you get to work with people who are actively working in the music business. So Josh, who's the founding director, he's vocal coach to people like Little Mix, JP Cooper, Louisa Johnson. The producer that we bring in is a guy who is a Grammy Award-winning producer, so he's worked with everybody from Sia, Rihanna to Alicia Keys. But the heart that they have for nurturing and developing talent is what makes them also kind of unique. When you think about the music industry, it's an environment that's a bit of a difficult one to cope with because of what people want to achieve in the music business, and primarily that's about money. We're totally flipping that on its head. And I think the environment that we try to create and that we've successfully created over the last 5 years is one where you can come in and be absolutely free to make mistakes, because if you're not making mistakes, you're not growing. And if you don't make mistakes and you don't push yourself beyond your comfort zones, you don't actually know what you're capable of. So UA, I think it kind of works from a kind of holistic point of view as well, and kind of the mindset, the character of the person to all of those skills as well, like the singing and songwriting.
Right. I mean, you were talking just now about mindset, and I know that's massive. A lot of the people that we've had down on the podcast often talk about how you can have finances, or you can have a team, or you can have X, Y, Z, but if you have the wrong mindset, it's going to be quite hard for you to kind of progress and get anywhere.
Definitely.
And I can see that is something that holds a lot of truth.
Yeah.
Just because if you're thinking in the wrong way and you're not treating yourself as an asset, as a business, as what you're doing as a brand, then I can see how things can not go the way that you want them to go. So am I right in saying that with the seminars that is it seminars? Would you call them seminars?
It was a 10-day intensive. So it's almost like if you think about being at uni or college, from 9 to 4, you're in your sessions and we rotate the classes. So you'll do all of the sessions in the days.
Right.
And then in the evening, there's a workshop and then there's a showcase. So everybody's performing throughout the week.
Right.
So yeah, it's a kind of, I don't know how to describe it other than an intensive.
And it's just once a year, am I right? In August?
Yeah, it is, yeah. But we have workshop workshops all year round. So we do a workshop every month,
right?
And that looks at, it kind of just goes into a bit more detail, and it was more for us about the aftercare. So you can come to this 10-day program, and then you're kind of just left to your own devices. I didn't actually want that. I wanted the students to feel supported all year round. So we've had songwriting workshops, we've had production workshops, vocals, we've had the business side as well. So it's just to kind of keep that going all year round.
And where are these kind of supplementary classes based?
So we've been in partnership with WAC Arts over in Belsize Park.
Cool.
So we use their venue, and we work with them. We open it up to their students as well.
Right. And is this the 10-day course held in Belsize Park as well?
No, it's not actually. That's over at the University of Hertfordshire.
Okay, cool.
Which is just like 20 minutes outside of King's Cross.
Okay, cool. So it's really accessible, really.
Yeah, definitely.
And so let's talk about the people who come on the Ultimate Artist course. What age range do you guys usually look for, or is it totally open?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of what we do. It's completely open. I mean, the youngest that we had last year was 11, and the oldest, and I use the word oldest loosely, was 37.
Right.
So there's no age restriction, as long as there's some talent there that we can build on. And, people come in for different reasons. Yes, there is that aspect of you get to work with some of the most sought-after mentors, and you get to collaborate with people and network.
Yeah.
But some people come in because they take a sense of healing from the 10 days, and it keeps them going for like 6 to 8 months, and all of a sudden it's almost like a reset of their mind,
Sure, it's recalibrating everything, and giving them a new understanding, a new purpose, a new direction.
Yeah, this is it.
So how does it work with the 11-year-old and a 37-year-old if they were to work together, or they
They generally don't work together.
Right.
So how it kind of works out is we do a lot of formatting before anybody even comes in. So we close our booking sort of mid-July, and then we are able to look at everybody in terms of their talent levels, their age groups, and then we put them into groups that with peers that are most kind of like close to their age range, their talent levels.
Right.
But then the workshops, we bring everybody together, and it's like an open forum. And then, we mix it up in the performances, the showcases in the evening as well. It's going to be really interesting this year. We've changed the format slightly. So we used to have everybody perform a solo song. So everybody, all 50, 60 students. But this year, we've paired them all up. So they'll be doing almost like the Voice, the battles kind of vibe, without the battle aspect, of course.
Is it just going to be people riffing and riffing? And
hopefully not, no, because we've got Josh actually taking those classes, so they'll get a lot of time to prepare. And no, it won't be. It'll be about using their voice and showing the best of what they're able to do, rather than having people just riff all over the place.
I can imagine that can get really, really messy. No, but I think it's cool that you look at everybody, look at the talent level, and then you kind of build a bespoke almost session for them, rather than getting everybody in. Thank you very much. See you later. Do your thing. It shows that you guys, want to make sure that they grow and develop the right way, rather than, like I said, just throwing them in a room and making them work together. So let's talk a little bit more about your role specifically. I know earlier we were talking about 3 directors. Am I right in saying you're one of the directors?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about the 3 directors, and more so what they each do. And I believe you run the majority of the program.
I do. Yeah.
Maybe you could tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the founding director is a guy called Joshua Alamu. He is a vocal coach, and he was the guy that conceptualized UA, Ultimate Artists, because he just wanted to, he's got a passion for nurturing talent, and he wanted to do it in the right way. Working in the heart of the industry, he gets to see that thing we were talking about, mindset. He gets to see how the industry affects these artists, and kind of wanted to offer something that dealt with that as its focus. So came up with this thing called Ultimate Artist. It went live in 2013. And so 2013. And, you know, back in the day, it was like 5 days, non-residential, and just it was a fraction of what it is today. So we've really built it. And kind of along with building that, we built the team as well. So that's where the other two directors came in, myself being included.
Right.
I'll come back to that in a second. But Eva is our director of education. So she will look at the content. She will work with the mentors to kind of piece it all together. She will look at the schedule and kind of how it's going to work best. How do we fit? Because believe it or not, we've got access to so many people in the industry and so much valuable content, but just not enough time to kind of get it all out there.
Sure. It's a nice problem to have.
Yeah, it is a bit of a challenge, but, you know, like I say, we do the kind of yearly workshop cycle as well. So we can just have separate workshops where need be.
Sure.
So she works on that as well, and we'll schedule all the workshops. And then my role is kind of all of it. So I deal with the students and kind of building the relationship there. I deal with brands, so kind of bringing in key partners. I work closely with the Arts Council so that we could offer a scholarship element to our programme as well.
Awesome.
I've got YouTube coming down this year, ditto music. So I bring in all the partners where I feel are completely relevant and can just really help the independent artist.
Right.
As well as doing things like this as well and speaking to you guys. I pretty much do the vast majority of it.
Sure.
But I love it.
And so you're saying that you have Ditto coming down, Ditto Music coming down on YouTube. Is that something that a representative will come down and talk about what their organisation does in front of the musicians?
That's it, yeah.
So generally speaking, how many different brands do you have coming down for the course?
It's probably about 5 or 6, and it's kind of made up of A&R, management, brands, and services for the independent artists. So. Right,
and then how do you go by picking the people that you want to come, as in the brands or the A&Rs, the managers?
Yeah, I think it's what's most relevant to the actual syllabus that we're delivering that year. So this year it was very much about one of the key, or if not the key element of what we want to focus on is character and resilience.
Right.
So within that resilience, we look at what that means as an independent artist, and things like, you know, rejection. So we've got a mindset coach coming in who worked with Sony Records for a while.
Where did you find a mindset coach from?
Believe it or not, she is the mum of a very famous artist.
No way.
Yeah. And because she was working in that industry and could see how relevant her work was, she kind of came away from it and went into that full time.
Wow.
So yeah.
Very cool. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it should definitely be more of a thing, though.
Sure.
So yeah, we've got someone like her coming in, and then obviously the empowering and building the character. I think all of that comes in with things like, you know, self-release. How do you put your song out on iTunes? How do you shoot a music video on a budget, but it still looks like you spent 40K on it? It's just all these things to give the artists as many tools as we can. And then, of course, by the time that they leave that 10 days, they also have access to us as well. So I'm going to be, I haven't done this in previous years, but I'll be teaching this year.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
What are you teaching?
I'm actually doing the brand and artist identity side.
Right.
So how to package yourself, what management, what A&R, what a label looks for, social media, your USP, you're even down to things like your photography, your logo, like how all of this stuff represents you as an artist.
Sure.
And if somebody were just to see your picture, what would you want them to take from that without having even met you?
That's so important, and I think it can be a really hard lesson to learn because you're effectively, you know, it's an open critique session, you know, and I can totally see why some people, especially younger people who are new to everything, why it can really come across as quite hard for someone saying, hey, change your logo, change what you're doing on social media, change this, change that. But I think it's something that's so important because a lot of young people, or a lot of young musicians especially independent, I don't think they spend too much time thinking about the whole thing.
They don't.
They think, cool, I can make music, that's it. And in an ideal world, I think that would be fantastic. And it is fantastic. But today we need to really think more about how that's going to get you somewhere. Yeah. We've always said this, you can be the best musician out there, but if you don't know how to get your music out there or how to get it heard or how to share it, that's not too great.
And I think also what we've been seeing is artists are in a real rush to put things out, and what they don't often give a second thought to is once it's out, it's then out. And if you change your direction or you change your image, it's very difficult then to kind of change lanes. Whereas if you just think about that from the get-go and you plan that all, but it's amazing to see how many artists don't actually think about the long term. I have an artist who is amazing, super talented, and was about to put a single out. And I asked a question, I said, okay, so what are we following up with? And she was like, I don't know. I was like, well, and then just put the brakes on. Because you can build all that traction by putting out a single. And then if you're not releasing anything for another 6 months, you're going to lose all of that traction.
Right.
So you need to have a bit more of a plan and kind of have a strategy and the steps to execution.
Right.
And it will only serve you better at the end of the day. It's not going to do anyone else any favours apart from you, the artist. So
I imagine your background in building strategy is really kind of like you really have an understanding of this, and you can see how damaging it can be.
Definitely.
If you don't have a plan in place.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. So I used to work for an agency and kind of was on the other side where I was strategizing for brands.
Right.
And what was really quickly identifiable was that you could apply the same principles to an artist. You are a brand at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And everything that you do and whatever your identity is, your message is, it's part of your brand, and that's the way you need to see yourself.
I really do think so many musicians don't see themselves.
They don't.
And we've had this conversation on the podcast before, the difference between your personal social media and your personal life and your artist alias, as it were. And I think a lot of those blend and blur. And by all means, there will be things, which will have crossover, but there's a time to talk about certain things, and there's time to keep it professional. And when I say professional, 100%. I don't mean, keeping it, corporate or anything like that, but not involving, I guess, drawing the line between what is good for your image as a musician, what is good for your brand, and what is just casual stuff that, you or I would put on Facebook or something.
Yeah, definitely.
Like that.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, it might be that your views about, let's look at politics right now, everyone's talking about it, but your views might be quite controversial. Now, if that's a part of your artist identity, and, that's how people have known you and got to know you, I think, was it James Blunt that was just fantastic on Twitter, and he was super controversial in the way that he replied to criticism.
Right.
If that's a part of your brand image, then that's fine.
Sure.
But if it's not, and all of a sudden you're going to start alienating parts of your fan base, you need to think about how and what you're communicating, and just be a little bit savvy with it. I'm not saying change who you are as a person, but just be a little bit clever about how you're communicating and putting those messages out.
Yeah, it's more self-awareness of who you are and what you're doing. And I can imagine that's something that a lot of people who come to Ultimate Artists will enter the building on day one, maybe not having too much an idea, and then is it 10 days or 8 days?
Yep.
On the final day they leave and they go, okay, cool, I have more of a direction, and okay, I'm starting to understand more of what it is that I do.
Yeah.
And then from there, I imagine they have the foundations of them as an artist, and everything else would follow from that.
That's it, yeah, you're so right. I mean, gosh, we get descriptions like UA is life-changing, and it changed this part of my life, and so I came back because I wanted to change this other part of my life, and it really is life-changing. And I don't mean that to sound cheesy or corny, but just how you see yourself, as a person and then as an artist, that changes from day 1 to day 10. It's a journey that you go on in a very short space of time. And if anything, you come out feeling more empowered and more. I mean, we did a masterclass for O2's Go Think Big. So Go Think Big is an element of the business whereby they bring opportunities for 16 to 24-year-olds in media and music. And, they sent us a VT of them filming people afterwards. And most of them were saying, I actually believe after this masterclass that I can do it, that it's achievable, and that all I need to do is have a plan and put certain steps into place. And, to get that kind of feedback, it's exactly what we want to achieve.
Yeah.
And, I did a video recently about what is success exactly, like a vlog. And I say in that video that I think the reason why people don't experience the kind of success they can visualize for themselves is because they see music as this massive thing. And actually, when you start to break it down into manageable tasks, it starts to become more achievable. But we don't ever go through that process.
Sure.
We just see this big block, and it doesn't have to be that. I go into detail about doing things daily. Like I say that success it's the small things that we do every day that build towards our bigger vision. And so you need that bigger vision to keep you on track, but you need to be doing the smaller things. You need to be breaking it down, So yeah, I think UA is exactly that. We just break it down for you, and then what you do with that afterwards is up to you, but you still have the support of the network, and that's what we're about.
Yeah. Would you say, without sounding corny, it's more of an awakening almost?
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like what you're saying about it being a big block, because I think that's like anything in life.
Yeah.
You can, whether you're looking for a new job or you're looking to change relationships in life, it's a big thing, and it's really hard to deal with. But as soon as someone says, okay, let's compartmentalize everything, you can see how it's easier to break down and to digest in smaller pieces, and then kind of take action on that.
Yeah, 100%. I also think, like, when we put ourselves into a situation of discomfort, we also push ourselves harder. I was in a situation where we talked about the job that I used to do.
Sure.
I worked for a global agency, and I was, doing really well financially. Got approached by a manager, and it all seemed really, really great. Mm-hmm. So I was a singer-songwriter, and that's kind of the avenue that I was pursuing before Ultimate Artist. Mm-hmm. And overnight, everything changed. I had no job. The management deal fell through, and I was kind of sat there going, "Wow!" Like, it went from having everything to literally having nothing. Yeah. But because of that discomfort, I pushed myself harder. When I got this opportunity to work on Ultimate Artist, I've probably worked harder in these last 2 years than I did in the 5 years that I was working for the agency. Mm-hmm. Because you just do that. You push yourself way, way harder because you know that you want success. You know that you need to be successful. And all of a sudden you start to realize that is beyond your comfort zone. That no longer is within kind of the parameters of what you've always known. But you also discover what skills you do have and what skills you need. And it's just a journey, and kind of embrace. I always say to the artists, embrace the journey. You might get to that point of having a record deal, and you've got a team of 8, 9 people around you, someone telling you what to wear, someone telling you where to be, someone telling you what to say, and all of a sudden you don't feel like your own person anymore. And that's when you'll look back and go, gosh, some of the most amazing times that I had were on the journey, and I didn't really embrace it at the time. Sure. So just enjoy the journey.
Yeah. It's a lot of learning and a lot of growth.
Yeah,
I like what you're saying about, when something's harder, you push back even harder.
Yeah.
Because that's totally true. The amount of times I've seen it, even with ourselves on Reload or with artists that we've worked with, when you're putting in a corner, you make it happen.
Yeah.
You tend to pull it out of the bag, even though it's not as comfortable as you'd like it to be.
Yeah.
But again, that's something that's learned.
That's it. And get comfortable with rejection as well. I would say get comfortable with rejection, because this industry, you are categorically putting yourself in a position to be rejected. And the quicker you understand that is just a part of the process, and that you can't please everybody in a world of 7 billion people, your mindset will switch automatically, and you will be more open, prepared, and embracing of even the rejection. I think the other thing that people do is they get rejected, and it really throws them off their game, and they can't get back on it again. They find it really difficult to get up. I'm saying, make sure you know that you're going to be rejected, because when you do, and you get comfortable with that, you'll be fine. There won't be much that throws you off course. Like you'll know exactly how to deal with that.
And how do you? Is this a conversation you have on the course with artists?
It's something we talk about throughout the week, and even the people that we bring in. I think what's really nice to see as well is the people that we bring in, they're all kind of echoing a similar message. Last year we saw it with quite a few of the mentors and the external guests. They were saying the same thing in just a different way. And it's not like we brief them on what to say either. So it's nice to know that that's just a mentality that's kind of coming of age within the industry now.
Yeah.
And that some of the old strategies and kind of routines that were in place were starting to break down those barriers and come into this new way of thinking. I think we need that, there needs to be this element. People tell me all the time, you're so philosophical, but I think you need an element of that in this industry. You really do.
Sure.
Because a lot of philosophy is directly linked, I think, with our mindsets. What we read, what we digest, the people that we speak to and the people that we keep as company, you are taking all of that in, you're absorbing all of that.
Sure.
And it's going to, inevitably, it's going to feed in to your artistry, your mindset, how you deal with conflict, how you deal with rejection. So again, I'd say just be aware of the kind of company that you keep and what you're exposing yourself to.
Yeah, they say you're the average of...
the 5 people you surround yourself with. Yeah, so true.
A friend of ours told me that, and I listed in my hand the 5 people I spend the most time with, and I was like, oh, they're cool people. Because it gets you thinking, okay, who am I with who maybe is not pushing me or I'm not learning, I'm not growing.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back, again, corny, but it comes back to what we're talking about, an awakening, almost you realizing like a light switch saying, okay, cool, this is what I should be doing. So Sheena, how can artists get in touch with Ultimate Artists and get on the course or come to some of the seminars?
So so we've got 5 places left for this year.
Okay.
So we
really should probably be talking about next year then.
Yeah, next year. So simple as going to our website. It's www.ultimateartists.co.uk.
Right.
And if you want to speak to me directly, all the directors are open to that. It's not this kind of closed door policy.
That's great.
You can email me directly at Sheena, which is SHEENA @ultimateartists.org. Send me an email.
And are you guys on social as well?
Yeah, so our Twitter is @AltArtists, YouTube is Ultimate Artists 1, Facebook is Ultimate Artists, and Instagram is also Ultimate Artists.
Nice. When people ask me that, it always puts me on the spot. I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I know all these.
Do you know why? It's because the Twitter one and the YouTube one are different to Facebook and Instagram. So guys, again, as artists, make sure all your social media handles are the same, so you're not having to do what I just did and think on the spot.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
No, we have something similar with our Facebook, I think. But no, this all sounds really, really fantastic, and I can tell that what you offer to developing musicians, whether they're 11 or 37, there's a lot of value, and it's more like switching a light on and saying, hey, this is what you can be doing if you have the right mindset.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for joining us today, Sheena. And I really hope I'm pretty certain those 5 spots are going to get full up really quickly.
Yeah.
But hopefully some of our listeners will join you in 2018.
Sure.
And hopefully the brand will grow as it has been for the past 5 years.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much.
No problem.